What do you do when a child tells you that they might have depression?
Let's talk about it.
Hi guys, welcome back to the Rooted Minds podcast. Today we have with us a very, very special guest. She's none other than Dr. Geraldine Tan. She's the principal psychologist of the therapy room, and she has many, many years of experience in terms of psychology. Yeah, I think almost 20 years, right, Dr. Geraldine?
More than 20 years.
More than 20
Can you not
years.
do this to me?
That's like older than half the cast here.
Hello? Excuse me?
No. Huh? No. Wait, I think
Really?
before we talk about mental health, we must talk about what is your skincare routine, Dr. Geraldine, because you don't...
Oh my gosh, this is really off topic. But okay, never mind.
Okay, but never mind, it's okay, yeah. So today the main focus of today's podcast is about Asian parenting. We have all experienced what Asian parenting is like because we're all like Asians here and we have parents who are Asian. And I think Dr. Geraldine, yourself, you are a parent. Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
I have 2 kids.
Oh, 2 kids. How old are they?
One is a teen, one is a twin.
A twin.
Twin. The 11, 12 years old.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay,
so they
that's
are called
very
twins. They're in between teenage and like childhood, so they're twins.
Right, I
Yeah.
see. Okay. Oh, that's actually very applicable because like the target of this podcast is actually for parents of children aged 14 and below. Yeah, okay. So about Asian parenting, right? Maybe before we begin, like let's just kind of get a brief description of how the Asian parenting like situation is in Singapore.
I must first ask where you get this concept of Asian parenting.
Okay. So I think that like through research as well as like stereotypes like we know like socially that there is this thing called Asian parenting and westernized parenting. So Asian parenting usually like people think is more strict, more harsh, especially a lot of focus in discipline. Sometimes Asian parents might even use violence, whether it's verbal or physical violence. But ultimately, most of them, or if not actually all of them, have the intention of guiding their children.
Sure.
Whereas westernized parenting is more towards like rewarding the child, I think, and more towards giving a kind of open communication, if I'm not wrong. So in terms of Singapore context, right, I think it's like education-wise is a very, very big like factor. So parents, of course, really care about their child's future and everything. So they really push their child to strive in their education and achieve a lot. So are there like certain areas in Singapore that you can identify that like Asian parenting, the key attributes of it, like in your experience are?
I mean, if you're talking about the stereotypical what people understand about Asian parenting, right? Then it's that whole idea of the tiger mom concept, if that is what you are attributing to, right? Where there is this helicopter parenting, you need to do things in the military style, you have to fulfill certain criteria, there's a endless list of things for the child to do. Yeah, and they have to follow it to a T. So I was just talking to a mom, earlier in the day, and she was saying, oh, he must wake up at a certain time. 12 noon is too late, right? And she's, try and elicit a response from me. It's like, I don't know, if your child is sleeping very late and 12 noon, maybe not so late, but we don't want the kids to sleep so late, right? But the Asian parent tend to have an agenda. I think that's one thing that I do notice, an agenda to fulfill certain criteria, and that is what pushes them, to push their children.
I see. Just now when you said there's a regimen, it reminds me of The Sound of Music. Have you watched it before?
Yeah. Oh, how come it's not your era? How come you watched it?
Is it not? Okay, maybe
No, I don't know. Did you watch it before? No, did you watch it?
Really?
No.
What's that? So it's just me there. Yeah, but of course, like with this agenda that drives the parents to push their children in some way, right? Is ultimately they feel it's for their own good, right?
Yes. So it's always the mindset is that it's for your good, it's for your future. and I think the idea of I want the best for you, I don't want you to fall behind, I want you to be on top of the pack, the survival of the fittest. So they push the child to strive in every single thing, that they can come out on top of things.
Right. So would you say that like another stereotype for Asian parenting is also like violence or using harsher because there's this like stereotypical thing that like Asian parents beat their children, use caning or like scold their children a lot. Like, I think have you all experienced it before?
I've experienced with caning.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Even your generation?
Yeah. I think so. I think because now we are the strawberry generation, right? So I think our parents' time were that time they have experienced caning like much more than us. So I think now it's still a toned down version, but some people still do. But I think I personally I never experienced caning from my parents before.
Okay. I think the saying in Chinese or even in English, spare the rod and spoil the child, right?
Yeah. Right.
And many Asian parents subscribe to it. So I think for the different race or different Asian countries, actually, they do have their own idioms in their own language. Of similar to spare the rod and spoil the child.
Right.
Yeah, so they believe that no pain, no gain. So you need to have a little bit of pain, and then you would remember, and you would either avoid the situation altogether, or you would remember to do it.
But is that really true though, like psychology-wise?
Well, if you create an impression,
right?
Okay, then yes, that is quite kind of true. I'm treading very cautiously here.
Yeah, we're not trying to advocate for anything bad here.
But if we are looking at the overuse of it, it causes a traumatic effect, which then the whole thing backfires.
Right. Okay, but I mean, like, you see Jialin and Matthew, they experienced caning before, and they turned out fine. They took it perfect.
Perfect?
Yeah. But then, like, I never experienced caning before, and I would like to say that I turned out okay also. So, like, is there like this benchmark that or guideline that parents can have in terms of how much they should be disciplining their child?
I think I wonder if there is a need for pain, when teaching the children. And what kind of pain are we talking about? So I do know the more traditional mindset of using the rotan, but if we look at our training, we look at what we need to understand concepts, ideas, behavioral work. We don't need physical pain. Yeah, and there's more than enough like physical pain inflicted on oneself, like trending nowadays would be the self-injurious behaviors and things like that. So we really don't need more of that.
Right.
So it's still up for debate because many parents still swear by it, but more and more, I dare say, the modern parent tries not to do it. So they look more at authoritative sort of parenting rather than authoritarian sort of parenting.
What's the difference between the two words? Sorry.
Authoritarian would be your military style, right? Yeah, whatever I tell you, you just follow, no questions asked. Authoritative, I put in the boundaries and I still have space to negotiate with you.
Right. So it's like kind of like setting ground rules first, then after that, like discussing with the child as well.
Yes, but rules still have to be followed. So it's leading with a firm hand rather than, I'm imposing onto you.
Right, I see. Okay. So actually, like one thing that we kind of like notice, right? Maybe this is more of a personal opinion, like among our friends and our own personal experiences. Like, usually around the age of 12, when like children get to PSLE in Singapore, right? The parents start to like release the hand a little bit more. So before the age of 12, right, is more really controlling and really like, oh, you must sleep at this time, you must complete this. If you score a lower grade than they expect, then they would score more, right? Jialin from but like then after the age of 12, it just becomes like what you say, a more authoritative, right, rather than authoritarian.
That's a very interesting thing that you pointed out. I find that many parents, when the child gets to the secondary school years, they find it very difficult to let go.
Oh, really?
They still want to request for them to do certain things or meet their expectations, although verbally they would say, oh, you're grown up already, but it's still, why aren't you studying? Why are you gaming? Why are you still not doing your work? Why are you not at this place? Come down for lunch. Why is Matthew laughing? He's guilty of the gaming.
I think I got some flashbacks while you were talking.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Okay, share.
No, because before when I was in primary school, my mother always told me to enroll for tuition, right? So I always obeyed what she said. I always go to tuition. I always listen to my class. But for some reason, after I entered secondary school, she like what Gabriel said, she kind of lets go of my hand, kind of. But she still kept on telling me to go to tuition. Like, even though my grades for PSLE was alright, but I just felt that, like, why, like, maybe because it's my secondary school mindset, like, I felt that I was grown up, but why are you still holding my hand? Why can't you let me go? Yeah, I really felt that she really didn't want to let me go. Yeah, that's how I felt.
Were you able to let her know that you didn't need tuition?
I tried to convey that, but she always told me to look at it in the long term, like, oh, I want you to be a doctor or a lawyer in the future. She kept telling me it's for your good, for your own future, but I felt that she wasn't really looking at it from my point of view, as in terms of, like, I knew that I could study on my own. Why do you keep wasting your money on tuition? Like, I'm alright, please stop. But she kept on pushing it for me. Yeah.
It's okay, it's internal, so you don't have to worry. Valid point. This is something many teens actually highlight also. Why aren't you listening to me? I know myself. Then on the flip side, the parents say, do they really know what is good for them? So, being stuck in the middle, we are like, okay, we see both sides, we hear both sides. But I suppose just because earlier in last week we did something on gentle parenting. So so gentle parenting is similar to authoritative parenting, where we are more empathic, with the child. We would respect the child's opinions, decisions, and we want to explain the background, the ideas a little bit more. So for the teen, because they know what they know, but they don't know what they don't know. So the good balance would be, I hear you and I hear that you can study. Maybe what we'll do is, for a term, that's when the parents need to learn how to let go, for a term, you do without, and we see how your grades are. So taking that step back and permitting the child or the teen to try. So you take charge of your situation, and you ask yourself whether you really can do it or cannot do it. But we are always here to catch you if you fall.
So do you recommend like this kind of like releasing and like kind of holding on at the same time at certain age range, or like only when like children, like some of the habits pop up, or you see some signs,
So the parent needs to let go a little bit during the teenage years,
right.
Okay, and permit the child to fall. So it's like riding a bike. If you don't fall, you never know how to get up and balance yourself again. So if the parent keep holding on to the handlebars, the child will never learn how to ride a bike.
Right.
Yeah. Or if you have the training wheels, you'll never learn.
I think it makes a lot of sense because we were just saying like 12 is like the magical number. Because for me, my parents really like let go a lot. Like the moment we reach 12, I don't know, is it because I have an elder sister, so they see like the effect of my elder sister, then it doesn't work. So like on me, they really like released. And like I would say like one thing is like curfew. So in like teenage years, it will be like, oh, you have to be back home by like 6, by 7. Then I think it's very like common for us to push limits. So as like we get older, we'll ask for, can I stay out like 1 hour longer? Then if like it was before 12, definitely the answer is no. I don't even have to call. But like the moment is like I get older, like I dare to call, and like they would usually say yes. So it's somewhat like I feel like they're really releasing. And like the part where you say like we have to like fall to know. So it's like if I'm out really late, then it's like okay, a bit scary, like I'm alone. Then I'll be like, oh, okay, maybe I shouldn't be out that late. So like subsequently I'll be back home earlier. So it kind of like makes sense of them like releasing slowly as we grow older.
I don't know, but it kind of seems like it's a bit scary from the parents' point of view. Like if you release, right, then would the child take advantage of the little bit of leeway and start to, like for example, if you read that situation of Jia Ling in a different way, that Jia Ling is like slowly extending her curfew and then the limits are suddenly getting pushed,
But isn't the whole idea of growing up, being able to maneuver around the expectations of society, and the very fundamental unit of society is your family,
right?
Yeah, but I think parents then need to trust that they have imparted the values, like Jia Ling, definitely they have imparted very well. After a while she goes, oh no, it's very dark, it's very scary, and then she then makes her own decision not to stay out late. So values that the parents have imparted stays. And I always encourage parents to then be confident of what they have taught the children.
Right.
But children will always push boundaries.
Right. So if in the case that the child does push the boundary, right, what can the parent do to like if it's going too far, maybe I give an example for myself. Like I suck at Chinese very badly. So back then, like in primary school, my dad would like let me do Chinese assessment books and everything. So then slowly, right, I was asked to take a break and everything. Then after I start taking longer breaks, and then I start not doing my work for Chinese. Yeah. So now my Chinese still sucks. So it's something like I'm not blaming that my dad didn't like control me back then. Yeah, but it's I can see like there's this like cause and effect kind of thing. Yeah. So how does a parent gain back control? I don't know whether there's a...
I mean, you bear the consequence, right,
yeah.
of whatever that you or choices that you make.
Right.
They have already laid out the cards for you. If your father had hounded you and breathed down your neck, how would you have responded?
In a very bad way also. So yeah.
So your parent is stuck, right?
Right.
But you made your choice. I think in that area, your parent or your dad was willing to let go of that part, but you bear the consequence in the longer term. I'm just curious to find out from Jia Ling, how did you know that 12 midnight? Don't bother. Don't even need to ask.
As in my teenage years.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I don't get any more like scoldings. Like from previous experience, it's like I'm back at 12. Like last time, then they will scold, and then like subsequently I'm back at 12. Oh, I don't hear anything from her. Oh, she went to sleep. Oh, okay. Then I'll like text my sister. Oh, so I'm safe. Like okay, then I'll go back home. Then the next day when I don't get any scolding, I'm like, oh, I think she's like okay with me, like with this behavior. So yeah. So it's like I feel like respected because they know that I'm doing such stuff, but they kind of like understand and they don't really like scold me for it. So like if they respect me, it feels like it's a two-way thing. Like I would want to respect them. So okay, next time I say, oh, don't go outside. Like, oh, okay, can.
Okay, so that's an interesting perspective also. So there's always a give, there's always a take, there's always, the respect that you mentioned is very important.
Right. Yeah.
And at some point you will, look back and say, okay, should I be doing this or should I not be doing that? Yeah.
Right. So I mean, on the topic of like how a parent controls the child and the kind of boundaries that they set with the child, right? Like, does the level of boundary that a parent sets with a child determine the closeness between the child and the parent? Because from what I hear from my friends, right, because usually parenting there's the one parent that is the tiger mom or the tiger dad, the one that scolds the child more. Yeah, so usually my friends would say that the person that scolds them more are closer to them, in future. I don't know why. Is this a thing?
I don't know about that theory.
Don't know about that theory.
It may backfire. It depends on the personality of the child also, right? Sometimes if you are the one that is scolding too much, the child can feel that it's very stifling. And then in the adult years, there's they will follow, in the primary years, in the secondary years, in teen years rather. But later on, they start to distance themselves, because they just don't want to hear that anymore, or there's a little bit of a phobia, to use the word very, very loosely, right? But I suppose for those that feel we feel a bit closer, they read it as care. So they feel that they are looked after, they are cared for, the parents doing it for their good, and they are able to recognize it. So that's perhaps what draws them closer to the parent.
So how can a parent that is disciplining the child lean towards the care side?
So the authoritative parenting, the gentle parenting, there's a lot of explanation. I'm explaining to you why my purpose of doing this, how come I need to be so harsh. So there's a lot more explaining to do. There's a lot more time taken to let the child understand the backstory.
Right. So after scolding the child, you must always talk about it.
Correct. So the traditional parenting or the Asian parenting is you do what I tell you, no questions asked. Don't ask anything.
Right.
But for this type of parenting, there's a lot of explanation, a lot more effort.
Okay, I see. Right. Then, so that means in the case of talking to the child afterwards, explaining them what exactly they did wrong and everything. So how do parents ensure that they kind of don't do the wrong thing again? Because they are I don't know, the perception, I'm putting myself in the parent's shoes, right? What if they are afraid that the child might repeat the same mistake again? Then does
and
that call for...
And the child will always repeat the mistake, right? You would have a behavior, and then in order to extinguish a behavior, you need to do it a few times. You need to be consistent.
Right.
Sometimes parents think that I tell you once, you must follow. But that doesn't happen all the time.
Right. So does that call for a harder punishment at the when they repeat the mistake, or harder explanation?
I don't know. Consistent parenting.
Right.
That means every single time you're consistent and you sing the same tune, and the environment sings the same tune also.
Right.
Yeah. And not, today I will tell you off, tomorrow I permit it, and the next day, you get away with it, and then I come back and scold you even harsher.
Right.
It doesn't happen. Then the behavior, the child or the teen will be so confused. They will continue to push boundaries, because sometimes I get it, sometimes I don't get it. So who knows when I'll get it or not get it, I'll just do it.
Yeah. It's just a really great email. I just keep doing it consistently.
It's just the consistent parenting. I don't know, for my mom, she will just give me the silent treatment after scolding me for 2 to 3 days. Then it's always silent treatment. So I kind of get it, okay, if she's angry, it's silent treatment. Then subsequently, I'll be I think I feel guilty. So it's okay, because of the guilt, I'm okay, let's not do it again. So it's repeated experience, repeated same parenting, which is silent treatment. Then subsequently, I'm okay, let's not do it. If not, she's gonna give me the same treatment, and it's very okay.
I think really unique, that's a really you were very perceptive.
My one is
not
communicating. They don't, after they scold me, they don't tell me what I did wrong. I think they're just then they don't talk to me now. Okay, fine. I will not do it.
You get a lot of reflection. A lot of self-reflection.
Right. Okay, so now on the topic of the mood of parents, emotional regulation, because we all know that parents are also human beings, right? So they probably have like their own struggles, their own personal problems, whether it is at work or under like relationships with other people, family, spouse, whatever it might be. So as a parent, like there's this very big responsibility that you're always the role model, right? Yeah. So like whatever struggles that you're facing, there's like different ways to manage it, right? But it's as extra hard when there's a child looking up to you and you are supposed to display something. So if there is, I give you a scenario. For example, there's a parent that like just came back from work. Then the boss maybe scold him, or he had a very tiring day at work. Then the child is asking for like the parent to have attention, like personal time together. But the parent really doesn't feel like doing it. So how should the parent react in this situation?
So communication in any relationship is key,
right.
Even with your child. So a lot of parents have this misconception that a child doesn't understand anything, but the children can feel more than we realize. So we do want to let the child know, oh, mommy is very tired, or daddy is very tired. Can you give me some time? So you give a concrete, timeline for the child, because you need to decompress. You need to give yourself that time. But you also play the role of a parent, so you need to juggle both of it, right? So communicating what you need and the amount of time you need, helps the child to say, okay, I won't disturb you. Or, you tell them, can you just sit beside mommy, or can you just sit beside daddy, don't disturb me for a little while, just a little while. They will learn. So it's important, because then they too learn to tell you when you're not feeling well. When something is bugging them, what is bugging them, what makes them unhappy. So the last thing you want is for the parent to just feel that they need to take in everything like a sponge, right? And they don't say anything. You can only see or infer from the frowns on their face, or them, slamming things, and you don't want them. You don't want to experience that, you see.
Right.
Or especially when we have grieving parents. Parents that have lost a loved one, or there's a loss in a family, and the parent tells you, oh, I cannot show it to anyone. I cannot show it to my children. I have to be strong. And then I go, okay, if you're not crying, and you're crying in your room, but you're asking the kid, how are you? Do you think they will actually share with you how they feel? Because they have not learned that emotions are okay. They've not learned that, crying is okay. But so the children will come and they will say, oh, I don't want to share with mom or dad, or, I don't want to share with mom because I don't want to make her more sad. And I say, how do you know mom is sad? She cries in her room every night. So the child knows. But the parent assumes that the child doesn't know.
Right.
So the parent needs to learn that it is okay to emote in front of the children.
But on the topic of that, is there a method of doing it? Because for my experience, my mom would sometimes, when I was a young boy, my mom would sometimes come into my room and break down. And then she just broke down crying, and I would like sayang her.
Yes, you parent the parent. That's what we call.
So,
yeah.
And then afterwards, after she's done crying, she apologizes and goes back to her room. So like she basically comes in, breaks down, and gets back to the room. And right now, currently, I feel that I'm afraid to show any like emotions to my parent, because like you said, I'm afraid to make them more worried. But the difference is they show it right in front of me. So
sure.
Is there a method of doing, like emoting their emotions in front of their children?
Okay, so thank you for showing another aspect of it. So what your parent did was to put you responsible of their emotions. So sharing emotions is different. But if I go to Jia Ling and go, oh, she thinks she needs to be my container, and then she doesn't know what to do with my emotions, right? And then she goes, okay, I see you crying, I don't know what to do, I feel very helpless. And then suddenly you just disappear, or I just disappeared, and you go like, what just happened,
The child is not responsible, right? Like for example, if the parent like comes in front and then like starts to like share whatever it is, then like just leaves. But the parent doesn't outright blame the child, for example. Like doesn't say, oh, it's your fault.
I think Matthew knows it's not his fault.
It wasn't.
Yeah, but the child doesn't know what to do with that voluminous amount of emotions,
Right.
and really doesn't know what the emotions are there for. Right? So you make another person responsible for your emotions. That's not what we want the parent to do. When we are, in any relationship, is to journey along together in whatever emotions there are, which means that we emote together. So that's not emoting together because you don't know what hit you. Right? But mom needs an outlet. So that would be better done with a friend, where the friend knows the correct questions and say, hey, what's happening? Hey, tell me about it. Is it this? Is it that? And, the ability to comprehend would be on par. At least that's what the adult feels like, right? So they are more inclined to share with a friend. But perhaps with a child, they find that space to cry, but they don't explain to the child because their perception is the child won't understand anyways. Right? So they download and then take off. Yeah, so it's, I don't know, for a lack of a better word, the space becomes very violated. I mean, the child's space becomes very violated.
Right.
Yeah, because the child doesn't know what a safe space is actually. So it makes emotions very dangerous. Like, oh my God, should I show, should I not show? Why is this emotion so weird? Yeah. Whereas if we emote together, it is a safe space that we have, and we are in this together.
I think like for me, right, like back then, my parents didn't show emotions like their own problems to me. So like now, my relationship with my father is that like I have to ask him like whether like anything is going on like at work or whatever, like because sometimes I see like if he's feeling down or whatever. Yeah. So I'm wondering that if like does this kind of habit have to start from young, like for this like to continue when the child is older, like the relationship between the parent and the child?
It can be consistent over time.
Yeah.
It can also change with effort, with experiences, with development. There are times where children, have grown up, they've gone to further studies, or they've started working, and they understand that they want a different sort of relationship with the parent. So they put in effort to have a different sort of relationship. Yeah.
Right. I see. Okay. So like in the terms of like let's say that this is the other way around. So if the child confides in the parent, so now the generations have changed. So I think the new generation is now called the snowflake generation. If I'm not wrong, that's like the term given to, because the term given to us is the strawberry generation. Although we are Gen Z. No, are we Gen Z? I think the generation after us is Gen Z.
I only know we are called strawberries.
Yeah, strawberries.
Why are you called straw? Okay.
Because
Easily
like very easily bruised. Then snowflake is very fragile kind of thing. So the idea comes from that, like because like social media and like we are exposed to much more opinions and everything. So we are much more sensitive to different perceptions, emotions, and everything. So for a child, like at this day and age, is like I would say much more common for them to have depression or anxiety, or at least the symptoms for it lah. I mean like compared to back then, or was it that because like back then there wasn't much awareness of mental health and people actually had it, but they didn't really know. But I mean like regardless, but even so, a lot of them face this kind of issues now. So when a child is facing this kind of issues, right, and what if I'm a parent, okay? Like if I'm a parent, then one day my son or my daughter comes up to me and tells me, Dad, I think I have anxiety, I think I have depression. I think if I'm a parent, I stun at how I don't know how to act in that situation. Like if I'm a parent who has not have awareness on like what exactly is depression or anxiety, what are the symptoms, so what do I do? So how should a parent who has never heard about this kind of like terms before react when the child confides in them in such a like drastic way?
Your question is interesting because I think the modern parent is very aware of mental health.
Right.
But let's say the parent is not prepared for the child to come to them and tell them that, oh, I've got anxiety or depression. I mean, the first thing that I hope the parent would do is to research what it is all about, right? That's the first thing. That's the second thing to do. The first thing is to sit down with the child and say, tell me about it lah. You know, what is it that you feel? You know, how did you come to that conclusion? Listen to the child. Because if the child is able to identify with some of the symptoms, I think we do want to, you know, sit with the child and find out what's going on with him or her. Yeah. And then research what it is before looking for the suitable professional help for the child. Yeah. But having said that, I think because mental health is so widely, you know, publicized now, and you know, on the media you hear it, it is unlikely that the parent doesn't know what it is. I hope. So I do hope that the parent pays attention and not try and dismiss the feelings of all these of their children.
Right. So if the parent is unprepared, right, then the child just comes up and says it. What advice can you give to them to how to react?
Still listen. I mean, it is your child. Whatever the child brings to you, just like when a little kid brings a drawing, a very weird piece of drawing, the parent will still look at it and go, "Oh, very nice." You still pay attention to that drawing, right?
Right.
It doesn't change no matter what age they are. We still pay attention to whatever they bring to us. And we should pay attention to whatever they bring to us.
Right. So, yeah.
I think I really agree with that point, because back then, like when I confined with my parents, right, like I told them like I'm very stressed with academic work. Then they'll be like, you no stress like your stress very little I work day and night. Your stress is like nothing compared to me. Then I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, so then subsequently I really didn't want to confide in them anymore, because I knew that it would just be invalidated, because in their point of view they don't really listen to me.
Yeah, it is actually very difficult, you know, as parents, because the amount of pressure that we feel, you know, and bombarded from all the different directions and the different hats that we wear, sometimes it really takes a lot to remember not to dismiss somebody else's difficulties or challenges. But you know, sometimes it's nice when your efforts pay off. So there was once I was doing a talk on addictions, internet addiction or something online lah, online addictions, and I was doing it online. So
that's ironic.
Well, you know, in this pandemic, everything converted to online, right? So I was doing it at home. And the lovely thing about doing it at home is my kids can be around me. So they just lolled around without popping their heads up into the camera. And I don't know what I was saying. I think I was saying that, you know, we need to find out why the child is gaming. Okay. And then I saw this little boy scribbling very hard at the side there. Then he slotted the paper to me.
So cute.
And he went, I game because Sec 1 is very difficult. I was like, okay. So, yeah, so moments like this helps me to understand that it does pay off, you know, that when we give them that space, a little bit of space, and that's all they need, right? They learn how to express themselves. Yeah. So I still have that note. It was quite funny. I was like, okay. Then he went, you can tell them this. I was like, okay, maybe not. So there was no time. There was just no opportunity to say, because I was making a statement about how sometimes they use gaming to distract themselves, you know, from a lot of their emotions.
Right.
Yeah.
I see. So I think what Matthew pointed out just now was like kind of a more less extreme version of what I said just now, which is a child confiding in terms of mental health. So this is like a day-to-day kind of thing, like because everyone experiences emotions, whether it's happy, sad, or like negative or positive emotions, right?
Yep.
So like what advice will you give for like parents to like make sure they don't invalidate the whatever feelings that the child kind of expresses to them, you know, whether it's a negative or positive emotion?
Okay, given that parents may be very tired, may be very exhausted, burnt out, and you know all that, I think the first thing that parents can do is just listen and not say anything if there's nothing else to say. It's okay, because then the child will stare at you and go, "Did you hear?" And then you go, "I think I heard, but I'm very tired. Can you tell me later?" You know, so at least you don't negate it, but the child is able to understand that, okay, maybe it's an inappropriate time to tell you and talk to you, especially if you just walked in the door, right? And then they hound you, maybe not, right? So they learn. But the child is not cast aside, not dismissed. Not that the child is not dismissed, but the emotions are not dismissed.
Right. I feel that like parents, they kind of have this like tendency, or rather they feel that they have the need to give advice all the time whenever the child comes to them with something. I don't know, like did you experience it, like when I come to my dad about something, then the first thing he will say, "Oh, do this first. Yeah. But yeah, sometimes that is definitely what I need, which is advice. But other times, like I think it's just a listening ear. Yeah. So I don't know why. I mean, I kind of get it lah, because the parents is there. Their role is a guidance on the child. So their first instinct would be to give advice to the child.
Their role most of the time in their minds are fixers.
Right.
So they want to fix things.
Right.
Because that's what they have always done. Fixing things since, you know, the child was an infant or in vitro, right?
Yeah.
They would just fix things and get things done. It's hard to relinquish that role, but you can always tell the parent, right? Or the child can always tell the parent, "I just need you to listen." But few children do that, you know, that I just need you to listen. Or the parent can learn when the child, you know, moves into that teen years to say, "Do you need me to do anything at all?" Yeah, sometimes it's very hard not to do anything, you know, and I get told by my twin, who is very sassy, "Chill, mom." Like I'll say, "You know, it's this and this and this and this." Say, "Chill, mom." I'm like, what kind of lingo is that?
What do you exactly like? Do you try to tell her to do?
I don't know. I could be telling her, you know, I'm trying to do this or that, or I'm you know, just ranting up because I want to fix something.
Yeah.
And then she'll tell me to chill. I'm like, okay, sure, I'll chill.
My experience is like so different. Like if I were to be like very stressed or like tired, cause I don't want them to worry, so I won't like come straight to them like, "Oh, I'm very tired from work. Like I don't want to do." I will like, "I'm gonna go school to take consent form." Then she was like, "Oh, what consent form? Like consent form to quit school." Then so I'll always make it in a joking manner so that they know I'm tired. But at the same time, like, I think previously we were behind the scenes we were talking about how like when parents they show their love. Sometimes I don't think my parents are those that use words. Like they won't say like, "Oh, if you're tired, you can take a break," or anything like. They've never said something like that. I think it's a bit like cliche also. So whenever they want to show love, it's like always like a plate of fruits, or like they'll cook my favorite dish so that they know like, "Oh, okay, like I know you're tired, so I do like through like my actions, I tell you that I love you, I care for you." So yeah, like, I feel like my experience is everywhere, because although like communication is key, but in our household we don't really communicate on topics like this. It was just through actions, and we kind of already know like, okay, yeah, although like it doesn't solve my problem, but I feel comforted.
I feel that's a very Asian way of showing love, like it's through actions rather than words, because it's harder to communicate like in Asian households, I feel. Because it's not a habit.
Well, what she was saying, and I thought was very nice to bring up also was the 5 languages, or is the 5 languages of love lah.
Yeah.
So that would be acts of service, right? So not all of us, you know, use words. words of affirmation. It can be, acts of service. And I know many Asian daddies that would be very happy to be chauffeurs. They'll ferry the kids everywhere. So I personally, would have my dad fetch me everywhere. Even until today, if I go, Daddy, can you please fetch me? I'm sure he will fetch me.
Aww,
Yeah,
that's so sweet.
And he's already 70 plus, so it's like,
Wow.
So he's quite cool.
Wow.
77 this year, I think. Yeah.
Oh.
Is he very active?
He's still very active.
Wow,
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So they show it like that. But don't expect my dad to say, I love you. It's
You
like,
feel goosebumps everywhere.
no, he probably will feel
Oh,
goosebumps, not me. It's like, I will wonder what happened to him.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So our Asian fathers don't do that, right?
Right.
So they would be the ones buying the food, or mom will have a plate of fruits, or cook something that you like, or buy a little gift for you when you've done well, to say, oh, I noticed what you have done already. Yeah. So not every parent is comfortable with the words or using words.
Yeah, like that being said, do like certain situations require the parents to change the way they showcase their love to their children? Because like I don't know, I read a quote somewhere. It says like children, it doesn't matter how much you love your children if your children don't know how much you love them. So like
Sounds very entitled, but anyway.
I mean, like, it kind of makes sense because, like, if, for example, from the child's perspective, right, if I don't, like, recognize these efforts, like the plates of fruits that, like, Charlie mentioned, right, I don't recognize it as something that they do because they love me, then I'll think that they are not doing anything. Yeah, so are there, like, situations that you advise, like, parents to, like, show a different way of love to them, try it out?
Yeah, so in therapy, that's what happens, right? When the whole situation becomes very dire, or there's the family is really at an impasse, then we will all sit down together and say, is there something that we can do differently?
Right.
So that's when probably this would be very applicable,
Right.
that we probably need to look into how we are communicating with each other and communicate differently, not only in words but in actions.
Okay. I think just now you brought up the love languages, right? One of the love languages is quality time, which I think is something that a lot of parents, like whether or not it's Asian parents or whatever kind of parents, lack time because they have a lot of things to do, like whether it's work to support the family, they have their own self-care as well. So like if the child, like even now I know my love language, like my second one is quality time. So if I prioritize quality time as a child, right, then my parents cannot like accommodate for the quality time, for example. Then how will you advise it?
Yeah, so a lot of parents think quality time means quantity time,
Right.
but that's not true at all. Quality time means undivided attention for the child, and it doesn't need to be a long time. That means when I'm with the child, I put away my phone, I pay attention to what they're talking about. My mind is not drifting somewhere else. Yeah, but many parents don't. They think that I'm here with you, what? I'm sitting beside you.
Watching soccer.
Yeah, and it doesn't help because the child doesn't feel heard.
Right.
They don't feel attended to. So that is very important, even if it's a 10-minute. But I have a good 10 minutes with the kid or with my parent. Now the child is going to feel very heard and very fulfilled after that 10 minutes.
Right. Okay. I mean, ultimately, like, whatever it is that parents, like, they just try their best to
I'm
accommodate.
sure. Yes.
Definitely. Yeah. So, I mean, I think we're coming to the end of the podcast already. So, are there any final words, like, you would like to say to our viewers, like, parents or anything, any advice, words of advice?
For parents, it's always a difficult journey. There's no manual that we can use. We try to go and, for many of my colleagues, we try to write manuals, but there really isn't any manual.
Right.
Because every parent is different. Every child is different, and I want to really just reach out to all the parents to say that all of us will always do the best that we can at any given point in time.
Right.
And to trust yourself.
Okay, yeah, that's very nice. Yeah, that's a good conclusion. Right, yeah. Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Geraldine.
Yay!
Okay, thank you everyone so much for watching the Rooted Minds podcast. So if you like what you watched today, please remember to check out the next few podcasts that are happening in the next few weeks. So actually we have this Ask Me Anything podcast at the end of the 5 podcasts. So please be sure to leave your comments or your questions in the link that is in the description below. We'll try our best to get Dr. Geraldine to answer the questions.
I just got error.
And so if you want to find out more about the therapy room, we also left the link in the description below, so please go and check it out. If you need therapy, you can request for Dr. Geraldine to be your therapist.
Again.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.